Hey there, I'm Joe.
I'm Audrey. Welcome to Ink and Insight, the show where stories stir something a little deeper and conversations take their time.
For our very first episode, we're saddling up with a genre that's equal parts grit and heart Western romances. We're talking dusty backroads, open skies, and the kind of cowboys who obsess over self empowered women, respect boundaries, and maybe vote blue.
Today we'll explore how modern romances, love stories challenge the myth of the West and why so many of us are craving the slower, simpler life.
So, whether you're here for the literary angle, the longing for wide open spaces, or just wondering if your dream partner wears boots and believes in women's rights,
You're in good company. Let's ride. This is the first episode. How are you feeling?
feeling great. Glad to be here. Welcome to episode one.
Right. It might be a little chaotic, but we're glad you guys can join us and talk about books. We honestly talk about books probably 90% of our conversation. So we thought we thought we'd bring you guys in and listen to what we have to say, interact with us. We're gonna have some platforms. We'll get into that towards the end of how you guys can um, ask us questions, interact with us, and yeah, be a part of our insider family. But yeah, today we're gonna kick it off going into one of the most popular genres, I would say, of the summer, which has been Western romances, specifically some cowboy romances that we both have read. And I mean, I read them last fall.
First on always.
Right. And
Mm,
you just recently read them.
yeah, I just started with the Western Romances by Lyla Sage, the Rebel Blue Ranch series. And I do feel like they're kind of the perfect kickoff to summer sort of book series. They're quick and easy to read, got a lot of heart to them, and they're just super fun. And they kind of make me feel a bit like, summer's here. So
Yeah, they're really encouraging you to get outside,
ride a horse,
jump over a fence, and
go connect with nature a little bit more.
kick some dirt around. Yeah, pretty much.
Truly.
I mean, I really like romance in general. I think I read mostly romance and then fantasy, but it, like you're saying, it's just a very fun way to introduce some of the very common tropes. I'm not going to say they're anything profound or things we haven't read, but definitely introducing them in a fun way that kind of brings us away from our reality. And that's, I guess, why we read escapism. That's why I read. I mean, not to slow my brain down, to slow my life down. Um, yeah, and they just like it's really inspire this like slower pace of living, and I really enjoy that with books we can do that. We can dive into, I don't know which one we're going to talk about first, but at least like the wide open spaces of Canadian mountain ranges.
Calgary. Shout out Calgary.
Right. And then Lyla Sage is in what, Wyoming?
Yeah.
Which is so close to us, but I have really no urge to go.
Have you been to Wyoming before?
I mean, no. I've driven through driven through it, but I mean I haven't like they have a really good, I guess, Western stock show sort of rodeos. But yeah, I haven't
I mean, I feel like we get some of that same vibe here in Colorado anyway, though. Like when you kind of push towards the mountains a little bit more and you see like the ranches and the farms out that way. And then obviously we get our rodeos out here too, Pikes Peak or Bust, and the big like shows like that happen in the mountains. So I feel like, it kind of in that sense reading Western romances feels a little bit like home. Not exactly, obviously, because we grew up in more cityscapes, but I think at the same time, like, we understand that sort of romanticizing nature and kind of the slow pace of life that you were talking about. Like, I think we see that a lot out here. And I think that part of that is like when I was traveling around and living in really busy cities where something was always going on, it was kind of nice to read something where the story was the love story, you know? Like there's other things happening that keep you interested and engaged, but what I do really like about Western romances is how much of it feels like, you know, the main plot line is this romance that you're going on with these people, and it kind of forces you to just take a deep breath and kind of read through it with them. And I like how that is.
Right, so now that you're back, you're gonna go look for a cowboy?
Yeah, that's my next step. I think this is like something that we have talked about a lot recently, kind of since we both got into Western romances, is this like concept of loving cowboys, wanting cowboys, the masculine cowboy, all of that sort of thing. And then obviously being severely liberal is that how I should word it? Like on a very on the spectrum, probably as left as they come. um, and this kind of battle that you have with the societal representation of men in literature and in Western literature specifically, these men are what we have termed, I don't know if we stole this from someone, but like what we're calling the liberal cowboy, because they just don't feel outdated in a sense. Like they don't feel like the men of the 1950s who were, you know, going off to work while their woman was at home cooking and cleaning and taking care of the babies. And like they are solely, you know, very masculine, very like almost toxic in the way that they interact in their relationships. These men in these Western romances are like the ideal guy. They are so supportive of their partner. They very much are like, you can have it all. You can love me and have your job. And if you don't want kids, I don't want kids. And if you do want kids, I want 20 kids. And like, very much, they're written to complement their partner in the best possible way. And I think that it goes to show this kind of like trend that we've seen in romance writing anyway, especially with female writers, is this kind of like powerful, independent woman who is complimented by her partner rather than like subservient to her partner. And I think that that's one of those things that one of the things that I read for is that sort of relationship because I don't feel like that has translated yet to the real world. I think that obviously sometimes it feels like we're moving in that direction, like we're moving towards equality. Other days, it doesn't really feel like that. But I think that the way that relationships and romance is written in books is so telling of what women actually want because that's not what we're receiving in life. Like, I mean, we obviously come from like two different romantic viewpoints, but for me personally, it's always been a struggle of I'm highly, highly independent and like I can take care of myself. I've always been able to take care of myself. And my partners in life have never either been comfortable not being like the sole caretaker or they feel intimidated by the fact that I can be independent and can do all the things that I need to do. Or even like, you know, not to hype myself up all the time, I feel like they're not living up to my expectations because I'm like, look at all the things I can do for myself. If you don't add to that, then what's the point? So I feel like when I look at these Western romances and I see these relationships with these women who are so strong, so capable in their own right, and then they have a relationship that adds to their life, that's like I idealize that.
Right. Well, I think romance is definitely a popular genre in general for that reason, and people are realizing, women specifically are realizing what is, what the bar can be, and um, I mean, the men are out there. I mean, I come obviously like from a different standpoint, being married, but yeah, I think just the fact that they are giving them their women what you said, but also horses and gardens and mansions out, on land is also very appealing. And I mean, we all aspire to have someone who dotes on us as well as is super masculine in the bedroom and not in the bedroom. And I mean, the spice in general, I think, is also so telling of what you were saying in the sense of respect. um it's a little bit different in different genres, but specifically with these books, we're seeing women that are very confident to say what they want in the bedroom, but also men that respect those boundaries. And every story is different. Every single one has a different, whether you're reading different author or a different character in that author's standalone series, we're getting different perspectives, but they're all super respectful, like you were saying, and admirable relationships. Who who's your favorite male?
I would say, I would say Wes from Rebel Blue ranks number one for me. And then I would say Cade from Heartless. What is the name of that series?
Um,
It's not is it Chestnut Springs? Okay, I wanted to call it that. I was gonna call it what's the other one? Rose Hill. Um, yeah, then Kate, but I don't love a single dad trope. I just like how Elsie Silver wrote Cade as a character, I think. But I think when I think of all four of Lyla Sage's books, um, Wes and Ada's story is my favorite story. I think like I we've gone into this a million times before, but I did really like the first book. Obviously, that was the hook that got me in, but I do think the other three books are almost I wouldn't say better, but like a little bit more engaging than the first book is once you kind of get into them. But Wes and Ada for me were everything. Like I love a man who's a little bit I love an obsessive man in a lot of ways, but also who's respectful of like the growth that someone else needs to go through. I also think like, well, first tell me who your favorite man is.
I was gonna say Wes as well, but I mean, I feel like I'm just copying you.
No, I think that that's a good answer.
I don't know, but it's hard because all the Eaton brothers have the same, I don't know, level of entertainment for me when it came to reading their stories. So I really liked Heartless and like Kate as well. And I don't know, each one of them was easy for me to fall in love with, but I also feel like I am someone who just loves a good MMC and loves good. But I read them so fast. That's something I'm also trying to do better this year is read. I don't want to say slower, but not be so focused on the rapidness of how fast I'm reading or how many books I'm reading. And I think that that's kind of playing into the fact that I also am really tuning into this slower life. Because, I mean, books in general are something that you're supposed to be doing in your free time for fun. And
Becoming a job.
we're over here trying to, I don't want to say beat each other, but like in competition wise, Book Talk has made it sound like we have to have these very extensively long TBR lists and read so many books per year that I was definitely trying to get to my 100 books when I was reading this series. So it was something that I was reading very fast. I definitely want to reread them again, I think someday. maybe maybe next summer I'll come back to them, and I don't know what the trends are going to be but for next summer because I'm not very good at estimating trends, but I'm definitely glad I got on this horse. This got on this train, got on this horse and did it because I understand the hype and I'm glad I was a part of it. But yeah, I definitely am not loving that we have this expectation that we have to read super fast and
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that I see as partially a downside to the book talk community. I think there's so many great aspects to the book talk community and the fact that it really does feel like a community when you're talking to people in it and you're like finding things to bond over and there's always someone who's willing to give you like a really good book recommendation or talk with you about like the terrible aspects of a book. But I do feel like you said that like the competition of it all, like people who are already saying, "Oh, I've read 100 books so far this year," and it's like it goes from feeling like, are you reading for fun anymore, or are you speed reading to say that you read 100 books? And if you are reading for fun and you get through 100 books, then that's great. I just don't know. I go through these waves, like we were saying before we started recording. I was just moving. So this whole like month that I was moving, I didn't even open a book. And I felt bad like in my core for like not having read anything and not really having anything to say on book talk anymore, or like not even really knowing what was going on. Like I was completely kind of tapped out for about a month. But it also was like there wasn't anything that I wanted to read, you know? And I think that we need to give ourselves grace at the same time. Like we got into reading because it was fun and because we liked it. So it's one of those things where you do need to kind of take that step back and be like, okay, read things because you enjoy them, not because you feel like you have to, or you feel like, you need to beat the people that you're in a community with, or just even like this concept of needing to read like what's the most popular at the time. Because I think that truthfully, the reason I picked up um, the first one, what is it? Lost and Lassoed.
That is not the first one.
Yeah, it is. What's the first one? Done and Dusted. Done and Dusted is the first one.
Good thing we have the books here.
Right in front of us.
Done and dusted.
Um, Done and Dusted. I picked it up in an airport because it was like on display with a couple of other books that I had like considered reading, but it was the shortest one out of the other books that I had considered reading. And so I was like, you know what? I've heard people talk about this. I think at that point in time, I'd seen you post something about it. And so I was like, all right, I'll give this a try because it was easy to carry around the airport with me. But I'd never been like set on reading Western romances. It was never something that I was like looking out for. I also am not super big in interconnected standalones in general, or I wasn't. I will say now, probably since starting Rebel Blue, I have read, I've jumped into a couple more interconnected series, but that was never really my style anyway. Um, but I think that like this pressure that we're putting on ourselves to read the most popular thing that's out, or read what is kind of being forced in our feeds and like down our throats, it almost deters you from reading sometimes, like when you feel like the only thing out there or the thing you're supposed to be reading is the thing that everyone seems to be talking about, and then it doesn't even turn out to be all that good. I think we need to get back to our COVID roots of like reading what we want to read when we want to. And again, that's that slow lifestyle, right? That's, you know, Emmy and Teddy would only be reading smut. So if that's what you want to read, that's what you should read.
Right. No, I mean, I say it all the time. Like, I've decided to shift my focus away from choosing books for my own personal TBR list from what I'm seeing on TikTok specifically, because that's the one I'm on mostly. Because it's you're not going to like what everyone else likes all the time, and we're all going to have different opinions, and sometimes we're getting into these debates, banning authors, bullying, audiobook authors, and it's like it becomes too much in the sense of like the controversy that surrounds a lot of these books are what's coming to the forefront instead of is this a good book. And so I'm definitely been more so picking things that people are telling me, this is the best book I've ever read. This is my god tier book. This is we have another guest coming in.
This one's a secret. He's usually in hiding. I hope he'll come up here and join us.
Books like Song of Achilles that you said is like a book that you could reread 1,000 times is something that I want to read this year and putting on my list because again I want that quality over quantity. And I think if I get to these books that are popular now, they're not going like we're not gonna. I mean, we are banning books, but we're not gonna be like all of a sudden you can't go to the bookstore and it's not gonna be available. Like we have this immense pressure to buy the book immediately, buy the special editions, buy all these things when it's coming to the library. It's gonna be on probably Audible, Libby, whatever you use for Audible purposes, Audible reading, and
He's here. Everyone, he's arrived.
just slowing down, not falling into controversy, not letting TikTok feed and Instagram feed dictate your TBR, I think is the way to go.
Yeah, I agree. And I think like it's you do feel that kind of trap, especially I feel like in the last year or so of the the push for special editions. But not even just thank you. I needed this butt in my face. um, but not even just like a special edition that has like a little bit of extra content or like a couple extra chapters. Like it's getting to the point where there's three special editions, only one of them has any extra content. The other one is sprayed edges or a hardcover or something like that. And it almost feels like a bit of a money trap in a lot of ways. And it's like I think when we think about just general sustainability and like ease of access so that more people can read, books are getting more expensive just in general. And we know that we have these resources. Guys, the fourth one's here. You're all here. We got the two voids, the mascot, and Daisy's in the corner. You can't see them all, but I'm so excited. Ah!
They all just really wanted to come out for the first episode.
They're giving each other kisses. Oh, is he the only one with collar?
Yeah, the other ones take them off. They just don't love it. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, you were getting into it, but I think the biggest one, and I think the one that we're all thinking about is the whole controversy at the beginning of this year with Onyx Storm being something that was so hyped, so anticipated, and people were lining up. I mean, I lined up at the crack of dawn to go to Target and get this edition that ended up, having art that was not original to Rebecca Yarros or the story, even. Like, we find out that it's basically repurposed art. I'm not going to get into that because I don't know the exact details of contracting, but pretty much like it was repurposed art, and a lot of people were upset that that was what they were getting. And then you and I, being in Europe, also realized that the editions that they had over there, yeah, they're paperback, not the same size as any other paperback that exists. And also, the art in there, was it even part of that story?
no. It was the scene from the very first book, yeah, where they're sitting on the parapet eating cake. Because I remember thinking it's beautiful artwork, like the artwork is stunning. But I remember being like, why is this relevant to the story now? Like it's surprise, it's not. I don't know. Spoiler ahead, they don't sit on a parapet and eat cake in Onyx Storm. So I think I don't know, that one it felt a bit like a Taylor Swift album sort of thing, where Taylor comes out with and just the hype behind her means that no one's really gonna like people are gonna buy it. Obviously we bought it, right? Like I have two copies of Onyx Storm, two copies of Fourth Wing, and a stumpy copy of Flame from France.
I don't even want to get into how many copies I have.
So it's like it's hard because reading should be accessible to everyone, right? And like I think we do see that more of these like different avenues are kind of getting attention, like Libby and like these other free library resources and things like that. But at the same time that those are opening up, the cost of books is going up. There's 40 special editions that you feel like you need to have. And it just starts to feel a bit like almost overwhelming in a lot of ways and a bit like if you can't get access to that, like if you can't get the new special edition, like you're missing out on something, and 80% of the time you're not. So it's a bit like, my cats are leaving me.
Right. I mean, we'll get into, I think, next episode, right? We're going to do our favorites and controversies, favorite books, favorite everything from so far in 2025, since we're entering the second half, and we'll get more into that. But yeah, this controversy was definitely one that I don't think we're out of the woods with this. I think special editions are still going to be a thing, and just making sure we're not falling for it immediately, I think, is the biggest takeaway that I think anyone can take from our conversation. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely nice to have an art piece in your house, and if you love a book and you really want the special edition, great, but I'm not going to be buying special editions to read it for the first time because I don't know if I'm going to like the book.
I mean, I think here's a great point to make. I believe in paperback supremacy. I do not like a hardback book. I think that they are not travel friendly. I think they're big and they're bulky, and for some reason, they're really not comfortable to read out of. But I think that there's this push now, too, where the first release of a book is almost always a hardcover. Like, I was desperate to read um, Sunrise on the Reaping, but didn't want the hardcover book. I was like, I'll just wait till it comes out in paperback. Still not out in paperback. So I did end up reading the hardcover book. But the trick to that was I was like, all right, I'll get it on my Kindle instead, since I know I don't like reading hardcover books. And it was like $17 on Kindle. And I know obviously I will pay Suzanne Collins whatever money she needs because she deserves it. And I'm going to support her for the rest of my life. But I was a bit like, for an ebook, $17. So I do wonder, like, people who, don't have the money to spend on books like that, how long are they waiting? Like, how long until it ends up in a library? I don't know what the process is for getting like the newer books into a library. I assume it doesn't take that long, but then you have the competition of libraries only having a certain number of copies of a book. So I don't know. I just think that some of these things are making reading inaccessible. It almost feels a bit elitist sometimes, which is sad. Everything you need to know about Ink and Insight can be found on our website, including how to connect with us on Patreon. If you decide to join us on Patreon, you'll also be able to join our monthly book club where we'll give monthly recommendations and let you guys know what we're reading at that moment. Right now, I'm in the middle of The Count of Monte Cristo because for some reason I've decided to read a 1,200 page French epic. So far, so good. What are you reading?
So fun to go from some fun, flirty romances to that.
Western romance was a nice palate cleanser, and then I decided, you know what? Let's jump into some classic literature. I think I would like to point out to all those listening and not watching, I'm collecting cats currently. I think I've collected all of them throughout this episode, like Pokemon.
Right. I am also turning to more a serious read. I'm currently reading The Secret History by Donna Tartt, which is, if any of you guys have read modern classics similar to that, unreliable narrators, lots of mental health illnesses, not a ton of stuff going on, but definitely a lot to think about. But I'm also listening to The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and I'm really on my Taylor Jenkins Reid's kick. I just discovered her recently, and I really like her writing. I'm a part of a Sisterhood of the Traveling Book Club where we send books to each other, and I never would have picked up Malibu Rising if they hadn't sent it to me, and I really enjoyed it. So that's the kick I'm on. I'll definitely have a lot to consider when I pick my my book club book of the month.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And along with book club recommendations, you'll also be able to find Q&As where you can ask us anything. We'll tell you more about not only our reading journey, but our writing journey. We both are indie published authors. Audrey has two books, and I have one book out currently. And we currently have several works in progress that if you want updates on or would just kind of like to know what the process looks like, you can find all that information joining our insider family over on our Patreon.
And that's a wrap on today's episode, where we wandered through dusty love stories, dreamed about living slower, and seriously considered quitting Wi Fi forever to raise goats and write our love stories.
Honestly, still not ruling that out. But until then, we're sticking around to keep bringing you these heartfelt combos, bookish tangents, and mild existential crises, all in good fun.
And again, all of our unfiltered chaos, behind the scenes sneak peeks, and if you just want to support two humans trying to write, survive, and occasionally shower, go ahead and check out our Insiders tab on our website.
We're talking bonus episodes, deep dives into indie author struggles, and probably some content we'll regret uploading at 2 a.m. It's where the magic and the bloopers live.
Thanks for listening, supporting, and being a part of this lovely little corner of the internet.